This is the Mancunian Way Podcast. I'm your host, Robert Campbell, and this week I am joined by
Rob Ward.
Jay Ward.
Now, Jay and Rob stand next to me in the South Stand at the Etihad and are also season ticket holders. Now, I want to start with you, Rob, please, if I can.
Yep.
What is your earliest memory of Manchester City?
Being in the Kippax, really, really cold, winter's day, and needing the toilet.
Needing the toilet. Did you
Absolutely.
piss down the steps like everyone else did? In the
No,
Kippax back
the
then?
guy in front of me got down the back of his leg.
Not a great memory. Jay, your first memory of Manchester City?
I actually remember my first game, December 2003. I was 4 years old. It would have been Grocklin in the old UEFA Cup. 1-1 draw on the night. I remember Anelka scored for us, but we got knocked out on the away goals rule. What an introduction to football.
What an introduction to Manchester City and football in general, yeah. Okay, so what I want to ask you guys about is the first season of Pep Guardiola. How did it make you feel?
I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit disappointed because I thought that at stages of the season you could see it was trying to click. There was games where we were undoubtedly the better team, but ultimately there was the same old failings, conceding stupid goals. Not a keeper was a shadow, unable to make a save. No offense to Claudio.
You mean Casper?
Well, yeah, Casper the Ghost. And even though inability to score, we created a lot of chances in the final third, didn't put them away, and it was just sort of in the boxes. We weren't providing the fruits of what we were sowing. We were just missing something.
I mean, to me, Kolarov was never really a left back
Or a footballer.
Well, he had a mean free kick on him, but that doesn't make a left back. Clichy at that point, I think he was already on his holidays. Zabaleta, I mean, God love him, but his legs had gone. He was like a fucking racehorse. He needed putting out of his misery.
He was out of his depth the season before that.
7 out of the 11 pieces of that team were there, and obviously the media made everything it could of it. Pep Guardiola having a trophyless season and all the rest of it. What about you, Rob? What did you think of Pep's first season?
It was a case of being old school. I would say the best thing that I saw was an idea. We could see what he wanted to achieve. It wasn't a case of instant success. We knew the squad we had. It hadn't delivered previously sometimes, and we knew they were aging. He did the best he could with, as you said, the squad he had. It was a case of looking at that the next step. There were games that season where we looked at them and thought, wow, what are we? We've waited a long time to see football like this. We all thought under Mancini, also, prior to this, we thought we'd seen some good football. We knew we'd seen some good football. We saw the 6-1.
Yeah, well, for me, Mancini was sort of like as passionate as football could get without being logical. That makes sense. Yeah. First season under Guardiola, to me, was sort of like, I remember watching like the years when Liverpool won the title or won trophies, or when United won titles or trophies, or even when Chelsea won titles or trophies, or Arsenal won titles or trophies. Comparing that even to in fits and starts in Guardiola's first season, it was like watching those British Pathé film reels from the 1940s.
Yeah,
it was black and white football. They played black and white football, and we were in like Technicolor.
It's the give it to Gordon. I know I'm going back to the film. Sorry, Jay's probably before your time, but it's very much a case of the old-fashioned give it to Gordon, 4-4-2, kick it to the big lad up front and let him do what he does.
Yeah.
There was no. Whereas if you look at what we saw in that first season, not mentioning this season and the previous season, but it was a case of it was something new. It was a case of I'm not just going to get the ball and take the easy big punt upfield to the big man up front. It was a case of let's play football, let's get the ball down and do what we should do.
One of the things I think that's fascinating about Guardiola is that you already know sometimes what the starting 11 is. Forgetting injuries, forgetting the absent players and stuff like that. The starting 11, you'd be like, yeah, I guaranteed he's there. He's there, left back, right back, centre midfield, striker. That's the team he's going to go for today. But the formation, you could never guess, never judge, never guess. You'd be like, why is Delph there? Why is Mendy there? Isn't he a left back? Why is he, attacking midfield? Why is Sane there? Why is Sterling and Sane doing? Why are they now down the middle? The formation on paper, you can guess that 9 out of 10. How they actually play the football, you can't even interpret. You can't even begin to understand the methodology behind that. And
this is Pep. There is no such thing as a formation.
Yeah.
There isn't one. It's a case of you all play football.
How can you counter that? I mean, what about you, Jay? I mean, like that was that first season. Now we'd seen Leicester win the league. We'd seen Chelsea win the league with hoof it to the big man football and send you to sleep football. In my opinion, Leicester won the league in a season where I don't want to. Well, I can't help but discredit Leicester, but nobody was trying.
Yeah, they were the best of a very, very poor set.
And then when Chelsea won the league, it was sort of like, here's the players we got, add this selection here, hoof the ball to the big man.
Chelsea never seemed to sort of change their strategy too much.
No.
They changed the manager a lot, the odd player in here and there, but the recruitment, the style of manager, it seems to be very consistent.
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching City for 30 seasons in the flesh, and I can't even describe to you what the football is under Pep. I couldn't. I mean, I've got my UEFA B license. Rob,
Yep,
you've got your level 2. How do you even coach that?
It's enjoyment. The only way I can describe it from my coaching badges and say myself is, here's a football, enjoy it. You've got a plan. I want to put the ball in that net. Enjoy it. Do what comes naturally to you. We've seen it now. We don't see the, oh my God, the ball's in defence, hit it long. We don't see that anymore. We see a measured bit of football.
The times we do see that are sort of like these pinpoint perfect passes from Edison, which is like 65, 70 yards to Aguero's boots. And then at the weekend against Huddersfield, the first goal, right?
Yep.
Now, I love Aguero. I think he is the best striker we've ever had at City. I mean, like the goals to games ratio is ridiculous, right? But he took one touch and you're thinking, why is he not hit it? 2 touches, why is he not hit it? 3 touches, why is he not hit it? 4 touches, and then just chip the goalkeeper and the centre half and just completely wow football. Jay, you sort of like scrunched your face up a little bit.
I think it's very simple to sort of say it's enjoying football because it's very technical. There's an old-fashioned line a lot of English coaches use that football's a simple game, and I completely disagree with it. I think that a lot of it comes down to the physical and tactical abilities of the players. We just said before about the fullbacks. In the first season, probably our best fullback in the whole campaign under Pep, was Jesus Navas when he went to right back because he had the pace to get up and down.
Yeah,
I think that a lot of it comes down to the squad of players, and I think perhaps you could maybe say in his first season Pep was a bit naive in not getting the best out of his players because he was so stubborn into his methods. He's probably come good for him in the long term.
I never ever once thought that Pep's methodology was wrong. Never once. I mean, like, all he ever saw in the newspapers and on things like Sky and whatever was, can you play this way in the British leagues? The point to me was, I've never seen anyone play like this consistently in the British leagues, so why not? I've seen every other way of football, and I know that this is just better football. This is just better football. And like you said about Jesus Navas, for me, you could see what Pep wanted to execute with Jesus Navas, but Jesus Navas didn't have the technical ability to execute.
No, yeah, he didn't.
Now, so that's that first season, fair play. That was a decent season.
Yeah.
I mean, 10 years ago, that would have been the best season we've ever had.
Yeah, happy days.
Think about that.
Very happy days.
Now, let's talk about last season for a little bit, because I don't want to talk about last season all night or all week or all year. Because
everyone knows roughly what happened. Yeah.
We're a bit good.
But for me, like, the Brighton and Bournemouth games, that's when I put my bet on. I put a ridiculous bet on, and I ended up winning the bet. 103 or more league goals, and I can't remember the other. Win the league, 103 or more league goals, and 100 points or something. I put some daft bet on that. I just, after seeing that first game, I just knew we would. If this was a season we were going to smash all records, it was that season, right?
Mm.
So those 2 games were both 2-1, right? Brighton.
2-0 Brighton, I think.
2-0 Brighton away.
2-0 Brighton
And
away,
then 2-1
and
at
then 2-1 at Bournemouth, with Sterling scoring in the 97th
How we
minute.
doing?
Yeah. Scoring in Fergie time, all the rest of the, the usual stuff that you'd hear, and standing on the edge of the pitch but still being sent off.
Yeah, how dare you?
Yeah. But for me, it was like, when we got to the Everton game, I just thought, okay, Everton, we'd normally shit against Everton. Well, not shit, but
That was a watershed for me. The Everton game was the watershed.
if there's a team that we usually sort of knock things up against, it's an Everton.
Just generally anything from Merseyside. We always struggle going there, having them at our place. Something about it.
Yeah, I upset that. But Everton, to me, it's just like, on paper, and I know football's not played on paper, but they're a team that we're out of their league. but they step up the game, and obviously Rooney was still playing for Everton at that point.
Barkley's absolutely thunderbolt the season before, I think, went right there.
And then obviously Kyle Walker got sent off for standing, which was incredible.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah,
I've
don't
never
get my way.
I mean, I saw Kevin Ollock get sent off for aggressively walking,
Yeah.
which was
Also, away at Bournemouth, like Sterling's for standing on the pitch.
Yeah. But seeing Kyle Walker get sent off, I mean, I don't really want to get too much into the technology of football, because I think VAR in principle is probably where we're heading, and it's probably good for the sport.
Regardless of putting that.
I can't help the conspiracy theories and the lights and the sirens going off in my head when I see Kyle Walker get sent off for standing. How can a referee make that sort of decision? And I just thought...
Media.
You know what I thought? At the time I thought, no matter how well we play this season, no matter how good we are this season, we're not going to win playing this beautiful football when we still have Neanderthals as referees, and when we still have Sky dictating their law, the Sky law, the Sky Fergie law, or whatever. I just thought the British football and the British press and the British everything is going to ruin this masterpiece. But obviously it didn't come to fruition. We got to play our way. We still had a lot of dubious stuff going on in the season. Not mainly for me, it was things like the Sane penalties and the offside Salah goals and the Sterling penalties that should have been.
There's some horrible challenges we had against us.
The Tottenham game was absolutely horrendous. Dele Alli and Harry Kane both put in career-ending challenges.
Yeah, on
in
Sane
the league.
at Cardiff.
The Sane and on Diaz as well, right? Was it Diaz?
Yeah. But he had two. He had one late in the season as well. He got challenged in his thigh, I think.
Yeah. The Diaz at Cardiff, and then obviously like later on in the season, like the Trafford game at our place, Aguero got absolutely mullered by Ashley Young.
Kevin De Bruyne away at Palace on the breakaway.
Yeah, De Bruyne away at Palace and stuff like that. So those things still occurred during the season, and obviously Pep raised it, but Pep, to me, I think Pep said something like, players need protecting. He didn't say my players need protecting. I think he just said players need protecting.
Just players need protection, yeah.
And then obviously all that was brought up about that was, Pep's moaning about this, that, and the other, and blah blah blah. And it frustrated me massively, because it's like, we're playing a sport that you guys don't even know how to play against us. All you know how to do is this, brutal. I love tackling in football. One of my favourite players at City was like Nigel de Jong, and I love it when company goes in on his mad bastard challenges. So I do like tackling in football. It's a great part of football. That was all I could do in football, was tackle. I wasn't like a hoofball player. I had decent feet, but I love tackling and putting in challenging and get dirty. It's probably why I ended up playing rugby eventually. But so I love that side of the sport, but there's an extreme that it seemed that was taken out on City last season.
But is that a case of it's not so much the art of tackling, etc.? It's just the fact that it's the only way we can stop what you've got.
Oh yeah,
we may go in. We know ourselves. We're going sometimes last season. Was it 15, 20, 30, 40 passes even? Both the opposition even touched the ball. There were games last season where I think we'd scored in Pep's first season. I think it was Tottenham at home. Jumped to mind 15 seconds. Navas. Tottenham hadn't even touched the ball before it was in the back of the net.
Yeah.
And it's that thing I think that people can't abide. If you look at some of the, to quote your phrase, the old school management. I'm talking here about your Allardyces, your Warnocks, for example.
The thing is, though, I mean, like,
that's all they can do.
I don't mind people like Sam Allardyce. I don't mind them because they get results.
Well, we almost had him ourselves. Remember, right? Let's go back. Let's go back a bit. Yeah.
Vaguely remember you wanting him.
That's a different conversation, but yeah.
There's a time and a place. Context is incredibly important when you want someone like Allardyce, right? But they get results for what they do. So I've got no argument against that. What I've got an argument about is when you're being outplayed at a sport that you thought you were playing. Because when you face Manchester City, you think you're playing football, but then you're shown how you play football.
It's the definition of football, though. From what we were used to, it's the definition side, as you said earlier. It's the what is football scenario. If we look at what we're playing now, and you hear the pundits, you hear your Carragher's, your Nevilles, etc., on Sky or BT, whichever channel you've got, they're saying the same thing. Have we ever seen? They did it their first season. Have we ever seen anything like this in the Premier League? The answer was no, we haven't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, still in that first season, the question was still being asked, weren't it? Can you play that way in the Premier League? But obviously.
To quickly ask you both a question, we were saying about the hard challenges we saw against us last season. Do we potentially think, if you look at the start of this, was it Jagielka for Everton and the Newcastle player away at the weekend?
What about Vardy?
Vardy's was assault, but if you look at both of them, were they probably given last year? Do you think maybe that is the referee starting to maybe crack down a bit on some of the challenges, or do you think they're anomalies?
I think they're preempting VAR.
They are definitely one. Well, yeah, preempting VAR for one. But secondly, I have to just add this point. I don't think referees are good enough or fit enough to be referees. I just don't think so. I mean, like,
I agree.
Sports science has progressed massively. Player fitness has progressed massively. If you compare the best of the 90s footballers like Matt Letizier's and stuff like that, who were great technical footballers, but were smoking fags and drinking beer at the weekend.
Yeah.
Like, it's like comparing like a Ford Escort Mark II, you know, or a Sierra Cosworth.
Nothing wrong with the Ford Escort Mark II.
No, but that's what they were. They were like fast Fords. They were like,
yeah,
you know, boy racer cars. Whereas footballers today, not just at City, are Ferraris, finely tuned sports cars, and the referees are still old school. I mean, like, is it John Moss? I don't want to pick on John Moss in particular, but
he
John
needs a
Moss,
bike.
he's got a bigger beer belly than me and you, Rob. Yeah,
Put together.
And he's a professional referee. How can he keep up with Leroy Sané or Mo Salah? How?
Did you see there was a thing showing the referee's fitness program?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Oh my word!
The one on Sky with Carragher.
Well, Carragher and Neville
That's
did
wrong.
a program, which is, you know, it's fair play. It's showing that they are physically fit, but I'm sorry, they're not athletes themselves.
Are they physically fit or has got good cardiovascular?
Well,
that's the question.
Well, here's the problem, right, Rob? If you're in the military, yeah, and you can march 20 miles a day, you know, or you can run 15 miles or whatever with a full kit, in the military, you still have to be able to fight the battle at the end of that.
Yep.
Do you know what? You know, so you have to mentally be there, physically be there. Now, a referee might physically be there, but are they exerting all their energy on physically being there, which is what it feels like, because they make these rash, crazy decisions.
I've got to run 40 yards to keep up with you.
Yeah, I just don't think that the fitness, I just don't think the mental fitness and the physical fitness are there. And if the mental fitness is there, maybe the physical fitness isn't there, you know?
Thing is, though, physical fitness is something that I think they'd struggle with anyway. We've seen the average professional footballer nowadays in the Premier League. Look at them.
Yeah, the average. That's
Nobody.
What I'm saying.
No, the average one. Not talking the superstars. The average middle to bottom Premiership player.
And the referees
Zero
haven't
body
changed.
fat.
The referees haven't changed.
No.
They're still slightly podgy, middle-aged. So,
Be like me.
Not that bad.
I mean, don't want to hate upon the referees because they already are, you know, a malign bunch, and they already do suffer, and they already get paid a pittance, and etc., whatever. But the sports professional, the amount of money that the sport earns is massive.
Thing is, though,
So why not have a professional refereeing body that, you know, why not have a training school for referees that specifically brings 22, 23, 24, 25-year-olds through who are physically fit, you know, and reach their peak when the footballers reach their peak, etc., etc.
you're talking PGMOL as they're called now.
Yeah, well, Pigmore, whatever. But
Pigmore. Yeah.
why are they like old boys? They shouldn't be old boys. Being a referee to me should be like being any other sort of athlete. It should be.
Because they're probably failed footballers. I don't think anybody at 20...
Are they just failed footballers though? I mean,
don't-
all right, like, for another thing as well, like,
No.
I mean that we don't get any transparency. I know this is all conspiratorial, but we don't get any transparency on what happens in a piss test, for example.
Yeah,
From a footballer, footballers randomly have to take piss tests, right? Do referees ever have to take piss tests?
I'd assume not.
Good question.
Shouldn't they have to take? You know, if I don't want a referee
Well,
smacked off
yeah.
his tits, do you want a referee smacked off his tits?
It'd be funny though.
Probably.
No. Well, what I'm saying is, I think we already do have referees that are smacked off the tits sometimes. Don't you not think?
Well, we've seen a few.
I mean, like, what's
We did see Howard Webb for a good few years in the Premier League.
Webb, Clattenburg, Uriah Rennie, all those sort of things.
Yeah, Uriah Rennie was a legend.
They were always making diabolical. Anyway, so I don't want to go down that pathway too far, but I think it's just something to think on. I think referees should be a higher standard in the greatest league in the world. There should be a higher standard.
Absolutely.
In my opinion.
Do you think that's potentially going to make it better, or do you think it needs further in terms of the technology, VAR? Do you think them being fit is still going to make the difference?
It's not just the one thing, is it? You know, there are multiple aspects. I mean, like we had the goal line technology, great. So let's add VAR next.
As long as it's done right, though, for me is a big thing.
For me, it means that there should be a greater level of consistency, but with a greater level of consistency. And this is going back to what I was saying before about a referee might be physically fit, but are they also mentally fit? A referee has to make those clutch snap decisions, because football isn't like rugby league, and football isn't like American football. It doesn't go to commercial breaks every 10 seconds or stop for a minute for refereeing decisions. That referee has to make the decision within 10 seconds. But do me a favour, yeah, go and run 14 kilometres and then try and do some maths puzzles.
I need a taxi to get that far.
I think as well, part of it comes down to with referees. Obviously, we're saying it's a difficult job. As you say, things with like American football or rugby, there's specific distances and whatnot. There's specific rules. The rules in football, obviously, as we all know, they're not really clear. There's no clarity. What's excessive force to you isn't to me or someone else. Seeing the decisions with that sort of...
To me, with referees and that sort of thing, that's sort of like the parity thing. Over the course of a season, it should average itself out.
You'd imagine so, yeah. It should do. I don't know if it necessarily does, but it should do.
No, but it should do. So I'm allowing that one to slip. But there are instances, obviously, when you get really angry. I mean, like the 2 legs against Liverpool last season.
Yeah,
those 2 legs. I mean, like for example, Liverpool should have been kicked out of the Champions League anyway. Which has any action actually been taken against Liverpool?
Didn't they get a fine? Was it 15 grand fine?
What's this
regarding?
Silly? Sorry.
Well, when they smashed up our team bus.
They didn't smash the bus up. They were saying hello to us. Remember? You don't hear the report.
See, I seem to remember a couple of years ago when was it Balotelli and Yaya Toure were having bananas thrown at them and called racial slurs, and we got fined like 60,000 euros or whatever it was.
Isn't the game behind closed doors?
But no, this wasn't the game behind
closed doors. No, the Porto one. When we got fined 60,000 for turning up to the second half late, they got signed 40 for the fans throwing bananas.
And so basically, it was UEFA saying that, you know, turning up late for the second half of a game is worse than racism, is what they said.
The TV revenue.
That's not a joke. That's
that is effectively what their ruling suggested.
Yeah.
So I mean, Liverpool getting a fine for. I mean, I don't want to harp on about the documentary too much because it's the first time I mention it, but I don't really want to go to it, but because we're going to talk about that separately. But you could see on the players' faces and the coaching staff's faces and all the rest of it the effect that Liverpool crowd had.
It shook Pep.
Shook the players. You could see they were all stunned. There were certain refereeing decisions during the game as well that didn't help, but the game on the whole, I think that was it was done. It was done when they
we lost that game.
Getting off the coach.
Yeah. It was lost before a ball was even kicked.
Plus, Klopp seems like he's Pep's kryptonite sometimes as well, doesn't he?
I think that's an image you want to play up, though.
It is an image, definitely.
It seems to play to it quite well.
The main thing for me, though, watching Klopp and watching Guardiola is sometimes you watch on the sidelines, you can see from the person themselves how they move, the German mannerism on the sideline. Pep, as we all know, does throw his arms around, does a rant and a rave. If you watch that against Klopp himself, it's a different. He's more measured. He's more controlled. Everything actually has a result. There's a reason behind it. I'm not doing it for what may be a perceived media coverage. If you watch Klopp, you'll see him. He'll be going to the crowd. He'll be giving the come on, let's. Whereas Pep will be giving the wave, and they'll be shouting the player over and telling what wants to happen.
Pep's. I mean, I saw it at the weekend when we conceded that goal against Huddersfield. The second that we conceded the goal, Pep went to his seat and slumped down and had a strop.
Yeah,
that's what annoyed him.
Yeah, angry.
We'd played amazing football. We'd scored a ton of goals. We conceded. That's the blight. That's like, have we not trained all week to smash a team? Why are we conceding a goal? Why are we conceding a goal of this nature? I mean, if you're going to concede a goal like we smashed it, at Everton last season away, we scored goals that Jay couldn't score on FIFA.
Yep.
Right? Yep. If we conceded that goal at the weekend, the reaction from Pep would have not been to slump down in his chair and have a strop.
It's fair dues, yeah.
But the nature of the goal that we conceded against Huddersfield shows me that Pep still has a hunger and a desire to push further and harder and just he wants more and more and more and more.
He's a perfectionist.
We could have beat Huddersfield 18-0, and I guarantee the first thought when he's putting his head on the pillow at that night is we conceded a goal.
It's the perfectionism. He's a perfectionist. He's a winner. We've not had that at this club for, going back to your comment about my first memories of City, etc. It's the first time in my mind I can recall us, again in my mind, having what I would deem as an absolute nailed-on winner. I will do whatever it takes to win. I will get the team to do it in my way. That's the way it is. I'm not worried how we play. Yeah. I'm worried about, people thinking this is Manchester City. Let's get the game won before they get off the bus. Let the opposition worry about us for change.
Absolutely, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Because I think that if you look at Pep, he does want to win, but I think he wants to win his way. Because if I think that if the way you suggested that then were true, I think if you look at the first season, he probably would have changed something. Said my ideas are looking a bit slow. Maybe we'll throw another centre midfielder in. Maybe we'll switch to 5 at the back more often, or whatever the press was saying. Maybe stop playing it around the back this season until we got the players in. And I think that if he were, I think he's motivated to win. But he knows that his way of winning, it's not just his way of winning, or it's the perfect way, it's the best way to win. And I think I think he's motivated to win in a certain manner, because I think he thinks that long term it'll make his team play better and provide victories in the future, rather than just the immediate play to win now.
Yeah, I mean, even though we smashed the league last season, in Pep's words, destroyed the Premier League. If you would have offered him 1-0 wins in every single game, he would have. I think he would have turned you down.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
He wanted to win with his philosophy, his players, his way.
But he did say after one game, I think it might have been Burnley away, or one of the games there, he said he wasn't used to the Premier League, and he's come back to what he started the first season. He was saying he wasn't used to the Premier League in terms of you don't fight for the first ball, you fight for the second ball. I think it was Burnley away.
Yeah, it was.
And he said that was the biggest thing he wasn't used to, the fact that in Spain it's all the technical, even the Bundesliga said a lot of it is technical football. They're not used to fighting for that second ball. We know you're going to win the first ball, but I'm going to win the second ball and take it from there.
Well, I feel like I take Ambien every time I try and watch the Bundesliga, to be honest, because a team goes 1-0 up and the other team just instantly capitulates.
I find that with most European leagues, to be honest.
You don't see
the Spanish league, the French league, the Italian league.
And that, I mean, just to go on about the Champions League for a second, I said this off air to you guys before, but I think there is a massive Premier League effect. You play against the Burnley, like we saw it at Stoke last season. We beat Stoke 7-2 in the end, correct?
Yeah.
But at one point in the game, it was 3-2. Was it 3-2?
Yeah,
4-2?
3-2.
Because Stoke thought they were still in a contest.
Yeah.
They were 3-0 down and got it to 3-2. You don't see that in any other European league. And like I said before, over a 38-game season, a 38-game season in the Premier League is far more exhausting physically and mentally than a 38-game season in the Bundesliga or the La Liga.
Yeah.
I'm just going to discount the French league because it's a joke league. More of a joke than the Spanish and the German league. But no wonder after Christmas, during the Christmas period, they've got a break and they play a game a week.
Mm-hmm.
We play 3 games a week. We have cup competitions and all the rest of it. Not just City. I'm making this excuse for all Premier League teams. But when we roll up to that last 16 or quarter final leg against your French team or your Spanish team or your German team, no wonder we look beaten. Or no wonder it's like we got concrete boots on, because the effort required from someone playing in the British leagues compared to someone playing in one of those other leagues is monumental. Mm. I mean, am I wrong in saying that?
Well, plus I might be wrong. Anyone can feel free to correct me, but in most of those other European leagues, they have one domestic cup. We have the League Cup and the FA Cup. It's another, if you do well in both of those, what's that, an extra 10 games a season? Another 900 minutes out your players or whatnot?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the other thing as well, which really freaks me out a little bit, but I am convinced in my head that this season Pep's going for the quadruple. I know he sort of mused and entertained the idea last season, but this season, I think, for a guy that's destroyed every record the Premier League's ever had, I think in his perfectionist mind, I don't think anything other than smashing the league, smashing the FA Cup and smashing the League Cup that's the bare minimum in his mind. Whether we achieve that or not, obviously, is a different story. But I think in his mind, he won't settle for anything less than that. And obviously, the caveat to that is that we're desperate, sort of, for the Champions League, right?
That's a fan-based question. I think if, again, it comes down to Pep's perfection, to quote your phrase, he wants to win. He will do whatever is needed to win. He will play whatever style he needs to. He'll do it his way. We saw that weekend. We were in the stand. We saw that lineup come out. It's like, what? When?
Yeah,
no Sane, no Sterling. How, what, when, where? And I think what we're going to see is the fact that this, again, is from first season to second season, as we were saying earlier. We're now going to see him having the squad to enable him to put the team out based upon the opposition. Whereas maybe season before, we saw cases where how we're going to play. Our lineup. Huddersfield, when we got that big
last
silver
season, to be fair as well.
Yeah, the Huddersfield game when we got that big silver trophy thing. Yeah.
What exactly was that? Sorry.
That big trophy thing where with the ribbons on it and the fireworks went off.
I'm not quite aware what you're talking about. Sorry, it wasn't the Champions League, so I'm not bothered.
I think it's that thing. If you look at that game, for example, people knew before the game. You knew our lineup. You know how we're going to play. They rocked up this season, and this is a development, as we're saying, it is perfectionism. I've now got what I want, and this is taking into account the conversation earlier about Zabaleta, Kolarov, etc. No slight on those as players, but we've now got a squad where I will put out my team to beat you. You won't know my team until you put yours in.
There's no strongest 11 necessarily.
That's it.
Just to add to that, say 3 years ago, if David Silva got injured, I thought
we'd have been screwed.
That's our season over.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, this sounds absolutely insane because of the season he's had and how great of a player he is. But when Kevin De Bruyne got injured the other day,
Kevin who?
Yeah, we got told 3 months, and I'm like, well, worst comes to worst, we've got Delph, and Delph's pretty damn good. Worst comes to worst, we've got Diaz.
I was thinking maybe we get to see a few more minutes of Phil Foden.
Worst comes to worst, we've got Phil Foden, and he's pretty good. Worst comes to worst, we've got Bernardo Silva. Worst comes to worst, we've got this Riyad Mahrez fella. There was no panic mode. 3 seasons ago, David Silva gets injured. I'm like crying. Well, not crying because I'm not weird, but I'm upset. I'm like, well, that's the next 6 games. We might get 3 points, 6 points, whatever. But that's the bump in your road of the season. Now, every team has to contend with the bump in the road, and they're losing the star player or just losing that backup left back or whatever. Last season was crazy because we just kept losing players at dynamite times. Like, we even lost Delph, and Delph was the backup.
Was that away at Anfield in the Premier League?
Yeah, just these mad things happened. It's just, but we still got 100 points. It's like even now, I've got a great deal of respect for Alex Ferguson. I have. I might not sound like that, and I might say words to the contrary quite regularly, but
no,
he was consistent in the way that he won the Premier League.
Yeah,
he won the Premier League in the most boring fashions when there was no one to compete against. Occasionally a Blackburn showing up, or occasionally an Arsenal showing up, and then the less than 20,000 average fans at where Chelsea turned up in the mid 2000s. But it won it when no one else was trying. It's like a Leicester win. Won it when no one else was trying, but everyone wants to kill City. Everyone wants to be that team that kills City off. Me and Jay were at Wigan last season. And obviously Delphi got sent off for a tackle that is a red, isn't a red, maybe a red.
It was the confusion around when
the
yellow comes out.
Well, I mean, yeah, a yellow card got brought out.
If he brings the red out, I probably don't have much of an issue. But he brings the yellow out, we see the yellow, then we see a red.
Well,
and
what killed me about it was the fact that he brought a yellow out, then he was surrounded by 7 Wigan players, and that yellow, like Paul Daniels' magic turned into a red, and Delphi gets sent, yeah. But even with 10 players, we still absolutely dominated them. But whatever. Will Grieg scored. Will Grieg broke away from Walker and Stones. It was a bit of a, some error at the back, whatever it was. And then
Walker let the ball run.
And then Casper, who was consistent every time he was called upon in the cups, turned into a ghost again. I'm not talking about Casper Schmeichel, by the way. I know he don't play for City. I'm talking about Casper, the friendly ghost who balls go through. Claudio Bravo, who's also injured, by the way, and we've had to recall Altamuric, and we've got Daniel Grimshaw and stuff like that, and blah, blah, blah. The entire population of Wigan went onto the pitch at the end of that match.
It meant everything to them. That was every single big result they've had against us, seemingly, in the FA Cup.
We've lost against Wigan before. We lost against them in the bloody cup final.
And then we lost them a year or so after, wasn't it? Oh.
Exactly.
That's right.
And those results were like, yay, little Wigan have won a trophy.
He broke his leg in that final,
But little Wigan beating Manchester City in what round was it?
Is it the
fifth round?
Fifth round,
yeah.
That was better than actually winning the entire bloody tournament to them. It was insane.
That's because of the media impact, though.
I don't think just to them. I think that if you saw on social media, Twitter, etc., I think it was the highlight of Manchester United fan seasons at the time.
Well, let's be fair, they haven't got very much to cheer about last season.
Well, no, but everyone in the sort of country was very interested in what that meant. We were still in the Champions League. We'd won the League Cup. We were walking away with the Prem.
I mean, God bless them from still coming over from Ireland and China to watch United every week.
Hardcore.
Runners up in the We Beat City Cup.
Yeah, runners up in the We Beat City Cup, to Liverpool, but I can't. I've got United fans that I know Yeah, I know them. Yeah, I know you're looking at me strangely, but I do know some United fans.
Yeah.
Whenever they won the league, there was the glow and there was City is shit, and
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, I know City is shit. You know,
We grew up with that. A certain other person
Right.
has not had that.
I have.
you've had it a little bit.
A little
but,
bit.
You know, we've had it for decades, mate.
Decades,
But
mate.
the problem is, can you remember United starting 11 for when the last time they won the league?
It would be. Oh my word. Again, I'm not sure. But I'd say that Schmeichel had a in goal. Going back, I don't know when they were
No,
last in the league.
De Gea was
There's a
in
long
goals.
gap between them two.
Okay.
Can I just
De
point
Gea-
out it's about 15 years?
De
I think.
Gea, Smalling, and now I'm struggling. That's about it, I think.
Right. Can you remember some of their key victories in that season in 2011?
It was 2013, the year after we won it.
Oh,
Fergie's last
sorry.
year.
Yeah, they won it in 2013. sorry.
No.
Can you remember some of their key victories?
I can't.
That's
Maybe I've
unbelievable.
just got a terrible memory, but I really can't.
Right, no.
You don't want to remember it, trust me.
Yeah.
If you were to ask any football
Oh, actually,
fan,
I can remember
oh,
one.
sorry, go on,
I've got
Jake.
one. Sami and Asri turning his back.
Oh, that was beating us, yeah. Yeah.
The We Beat City Cup again.
The We Beat City Cup, yeah. But the We Beat City and won the League Cup that year.
Ah,
Yeah, we'll
sorry.
give them up. We can have that cup.
But you ask any football fan, do they remember Aguero?
Sorry.
But
I think most people of my age will remember that for a long, long
the
time.
point is, Rob, they remember it. They remember it.
It's a moment that
Now,
I think nobody
13,
will forget.
14 Pellegrini, like, City fans will remember it, but I don't think many outside of football will
No.
remember it.
The company goal in the company goal in the last
I think
game.
the most famous part of that season was probably Steven Gerrard on his arse.
Slipping.
Yeah.
There's a song about that, I think.
Is there?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
another one.
Yeah,
But
you
then,
might have partaken a few
then
times.
17-18 season under Guardiola, it was like fascination. It was like watching the moon landings.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't alive to watch the moon landings, to be clear, but
What should I say?
a nation, a footballing fan base, global fan base for any club was just like, can they get beat? Who's going to beat them? Where are they going to fail? Where are they going to falter? How can they play this style of football? I never saw Zidane's Real Madrid play this style of football. I never saw Real Madrid play this type of football when Zidane was playing for Real Madrid. What is this? Is this a new sport? Is this still football? How's anyone going to catch up with them? How's anyone going to keep up with them?
This is evolution, though. What you're talking now is evolution. We see it in any sport. You see it. If you look at football, you can look at rugby league, for example. It's that element of, I'm comparing to rugby league because I obviously tend to watch rugby league as well.
Yeah.
It's when rugby league became a fully professional sport. You saw the change in that from being the guy coming out of training, couple of pints, couple of woodbines, and then playing the game, to somebody who actually trains 7 nights a week and plays the game. You saw the physical difference in the game. It lifted and went to the Australia, New Zealand standard.
You see, this is the thing, right? At some points, I wish I wasn't a City fan because I still feel like I'd be saying the same things. It almost is like the sport in 2017-2018 season went from being an amateur sport to a professional sport.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. And obviously saying that as a City fan, you're going to get loads of flack. But that's what it feels like. I watched the Premier League for years and years. Even when we were in the Premier League, I watched the Premier League. And it was boring. I had occasional players that I liked. Like I liked Matt Letizia. I liked him. And Ravanelli when he came over for Middlesbrough and stuff like that. They were interesting players to watch. They were skillful players like Ginola, Thierry
Janino
Henry.
even for Middlesbrough.
Yeah. They were all individually good players. But now it's we've got a team of 11 Thierry Henrys. It would genuinely feel could play in any position.
And that's just centre backs.
Yeah, I really feel like Bravo. Christ, what am I?
I bet it's good Hatfield in this team as well.
I really feel like Edison could play attacking midfield or something.
Oh, I'd have him in centre midfield. Distribution.
You could
Shoot.
You could easily put. I mean, have you seen Mendy's feet? He can shoot, man.
Yeah.
No,
We saw last
Well, the
season.
weekend he looked like he was playing left wing rather than left back.
Exactly. I mean, we've seen Dino and Delphi take pot shots from 40 yards and bang them in. Sane, 40 yards, bang them in. It's ridiculous. So I think we'll call that half time, boys.
Happy days.